podcast today, and we've got someone really special to talk to you all about auctions. Welcome, Mr. Dave Harvey. How are you?
Well, how are you, mate?
I'm really good. Now, what's this backdrop before? Where are we today?
Lovely downtown Camden.
The historical Camden,
Beautiful spot.
birthplace of wool, wine, and wealth in our country. It's a historic town just on the outskirts of Sydney, about an hour out. Come out and have a visit. But more importantly, I was at an auction on the weekend with Dave, and we realised a lot of people don't know, one, how to buy at auction, the traps and the tricks about buying at auction, and how you should approach it. So I thought, rather than listen to me rabbit on about it, I'm going to get an expert, one of Sydney's best known independent auctioneers, very well known, very successful, very respected, which is most important to me. So I'm going to ask you, auctions, are they growing in popularity now in Sydney?
Most definitely, yes. Certainly the uptake has, or especially in the Macarthur area, which has taken a while to take that uptake, but it's certainly happening now, and it's a methodology that agents are turning to get the result they desire.
Yeah,
most definitely. It's been a little bit slow uptake, like I said, in the southwest of Sydney. Certainly, they've adopted the methodology of the city and the eastern suburbs, and it's coming. It's migrating over to this side, Camden, my hometown. Certainly, that's exactly the methodology that's being adopted.
Now, a lot of people don't understand the difference between an auction and what we call private trading. And then you've got faux auctions, as we call them, where they're expressions of interest, throw your best in, which is sort of an auction without having an auctioneer. But, you know, personally as a buyer's agent, I'm not a fan of them. I like a lot of transparency.
That's the thing, the transparency that goes with an auction. It's the most transparent way to buy and sell.
True.
And it gives you a vendor the final date they have an answer. It may not be the answer they want, but
that's
it gives them the final answer as to where they're at. 4-week campaign, a lot of instances, they know where they're at. They can work out their market in real time, and they can see who wants to be involved in buying their property, and obviously the level of interest in that property.
So can people, I'm going to ask them what you and I know take for granted as easy questions, but for people watching today, they won't know. Someone drives past a house and they see for auction. Can they buy that place before it goes to auction?
Most definitely. It's part of the one. It's a three-pronged approach. You can either sell prior, sell during, or sell after. So you've got a great opportunity where if the price is right and the vendor is happy to accept that price prior to auction, that is just one part of the process, and perfectly acceptable to sell or buy before auction. So
is it illegal for an agent to turn around and say, yes, we can accept your offer, but it's under auction conditions before the auction day?
So is it illegal?
No, is it legal? Is it? Because quite often they'll say it's under auction conditions, 10% down, no cooling off.
That's what they'll use to create urgency. And that's one way of being able to stop the auction in its stride. So therefore, what they'll get you to do is they'll get you to sign a form, which is a 66W.
66W,
They'll get you to sign one of those, which is an unconditional contract. So it's just like buying at auction. There's no cooling off. They'll ask you to do all your due diligence prior to making or proceeding with that contract, so that it's finite, it's finished, it's complete, and you are an owner.
Awesome. Now, building a pest. If you're at auction, once that hammer drops, like I've seen you do it, you're very good at it. You don't have time for building a pest. It's done. So it's done. If someone is serious about buying a house and they know it's not going to be sold before auction, should they and can they get a building and pest before the auction?
Most definitely can. And you are seeing a bit of uptake now from where the agent will do a building and pest and have it on display, and that's something you can purchase off that agent.
True, yes.
So that they've already done the due diligence, and you can purchase that so that you've got the informed decision. Say, because what happens is it goes to auction and there might be 10 pest and doings. You know, all the prospective buyers are doing all the same due diligence. So therefore, you're finding a bit of uptake now where the informed agent is doing the building, doing the pest, and they've got them on display, and they offer them for sale if you are the purchaser. So therefore, you've done all the due diligence. But certainly, building a pest is paramount if you're looking for something before you go to auction. Most definitely, you want to have, and most definitely want to have your findings.
Well, we're going to get to all that in a minute. So, young couple sees a house, it's going for auction. They get a building and pest. They turn up on the day. They've got to pay 10% down. Don't so how can they normally pay that 10%? So they have to be cash, a brown suitcase, a bond. How do we do it these days?
Used to be the old brown suitcase.
Yes, it used to be.
But now the best thing to do is if you've got all your ducks in a row and everything's ready to go and it's Thursday afternoon and the auction's on a Saturday, my advice to good agent, my advice to buyers is to share your banking details. Ask the agent to share their banking details for their trust account to you, so that you can do a test account. So you can do a test amount. So you can put in $1. Make sure that that account is going to be right on Saturday. And then what happens is then you're in the hype of the activity. You've won the auction, you sign the contract, and then you go, oh, I can't transfer that amount of money. So then you're rummaging together to try and get it all sorted. But if you do it prior on the Thursday, the Friday, do a test of % into that trust account. They refund that if you don't buy it. And what that does, it just allows you to know, it does accept OSCO or does accept that payment. I have got the right account, because a lot of people are going to transfer 2, 3, 100,000, 200,000, 200,000, and they're just taking the word for it that that's the right account it's got to go into. So a little bit if you do all that prior, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then what happens is then it allows you to be a little bit more relaxed on the Saturday. You go, yep, I've got the account number all sorted. I know they're going to give me back my test account if I'm not successful. And it just allows you, because checks aren't a thing anymore, and obviously, putting a bank transfer is the way to go. And
you would pre-arrange that, because most banks would knock it back.
They knock it back. And the other thing is you can do the test account of the $1, but then also increasing the amount that you're able to transfer in one heap, so that then they become a preferred payer. So that's just something to keep in mind.
So around the country, there's different rules on bidding.
One
of the things that is common is what we call a vendor bid. But it's different in New South Wales and Queensland. But the definition of what a vendor bid isn't. It's how many you can do and all that. For the uninitiated, what is a vendor bid? And does it mean when someone puts a vendor bid in that's the reserve?
No. Vendor bid is to get it, in a lot of areas, it is to get the collective juices going. If you've got a little bit of a nervous crowd, or you've got a little bit of crowd that's sort of abstaining from bidding, you can sort of use that as a methodology, use that as a tool to get the bidding flowing. Or if you find that it hasn't reached the level, and then, like I said earlier, the auction process is the most transparent way to buy and sell.
It is.
So what happens is by putting that vendor bid forward, you know the level that the bidding has to be at in order
to get interest.
And then a lot of the time, agents won't use it, and we ask off the floor for their bid first. So therefore, that's it. But a vendor bid in New South Wales, I can have one vendor bid. That's all I can have. One vendor bid.
In Queensland, you can have multiple.
Victoria can have multiple.
And I've seen personally, when I've been up to an auction in Queensland, the vendor has instructed the real estate agent for multiple bids. And basically priced themselves out.
That's correct.
Just scared people.
It's the old running methodology where you'd run them, where before, legislation came in where there had to be bidders' paddles, there had to be registrations. So it's very, very, New South Wales has got it right in my view. It's what they've got is you've got a point where, firstly, you come to an auction, they know who you are.
You've got to register,
your address, they've got your ID. So you know that you're there legitimately trying to buy that. You're not just there in the crowd going, I'll have a crack, I'll have it, but you're not.
Which happens.
Yes, that's right. Whereas they've mitigated all that in New South Wales. But in Queensland, you can just keep going and going and going until, like you said, exactly like that one you explained, where that's priced them out, that guy doesn't go again.
No.
So deregulation happened in the automotive business. And in the house business, it's very regulated.
Went to the other way.
Which is great.
So can someone register for a house once the auction started?
Yes. There's you could turn up late, run late, hit soccer, whatever, wherever you might be. You turn up, we're that house, honey, we've got to get, no problem at all. You can register on the fly.
So what about if you're a young couple or a person who either can't get to the auction, but can register for the auction, or is unsure? This does happen a lot, and people don't understand is, can you appoint someone like me as a buyer's agent to auction, as in other words, to bid on your behalf at an auction?
So you can certainly employ you.
Or an older employee, an uncle or an auntie who's done it before.
All that we need is a letter of authority allowing you to do that. So then we deem you as being the actual bidder, and they bid on your behalf. So therefore, they an absentee bid in such instance, but the actual letter of authority allowing that person to bid on your behalf.
And they still have to sign the contract by midnight on the day. That's the law.
All bets are off. That's the law.
That's the law.
12 o'clock has to be signed and has to be sealed. Yes, most definitely. You're legally binding by that letter of authority.
So, a couple of quick questions before we get on to some a wrap up. When it comes to how much should you pay, someone looks at a house and it's auctioned, but of course there's no price guide on it.
No,
You can ask the agent what if there's a price guide. He doesn't have to give you one.
no,
In New South Wales, in Queensland, they're not allowed to.
no. Queensland not allowed to. That's correct.
But how does a couple know they've got a budget? So say money isn't the problem. They know they've got finance approved up. How do they know how much a property's worth and where if they should bother turning up or not turning up? Because all you hear on stories is this went over reserve, this went 200,000 over reserve. But you and I know that we've seen many properties sell for under reserve.
Under reserve. Yeah,
So
they sell under reserve. Yeah.
What's a couple of tips for someone who's going to an auction to know what that property's worth?
Well, you always got to set yourself a boundary, set yourself a limit, set yourself to where you want to be, and have that in mind. And then obviously you would have looked at comparable sales.
Yep.
You would have had done a little bit of due diligence, would have done a bit of homework prior to
Yeah.
attending that auction, and have a look at what number 56 sold for. Have a look at and just see when they got sold, and ask the questions and delve around and go to a couple of auctions prior to the one you're.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that strongly. Yeah.
Have a look at those and see how it works and see how it. But the best strategy you can have is not abstain from bidding. If you want to buy it, is to not abstain and thinking that you can outsmart yourself by not bidding. What you want to do is you want to be the last person standing, so you can have a look at that written reserve price in exclusivity.
Now I've been at 2 auctions where no one's bidding.
Yep.
And I've turned around to someone and said, put a bid
You
in.
went to 2.
No, I've been a lot more than 2. And they said, why? I said, because if you bid, doesn't matter if you're below the reserve or not, you get first right of refusal to negotiate.
Most definitely.
And guess what? Both those people got the properties.
Yes.
And got them for a good price.
Yes.
So-
Yeah. The idea is to finish on top.
Yep.
And that allows you then the exclusivity to have a look at the written reserve price and negotiate with the vendor, negotiate with the agent.
Yep.
Hopefully you come into some equilibrium where you can get a deal done.
So we're going to wrap up today. We're going to throw back to you first.
Don't
What is the
make it too
best
hard.
advice? No, I'm going to make it too hard, I know we're up early for someone in real estate. Normally he's still in bed.
In bed.
I actually got him. He was coming out of the beauty parlour because he just had his skin treatment for
Did
the
I?
week.
That characteristic lines.
Yeah, you're really good looking for a 20-year-old. What is the best advice
Yep.
you would give somebody going to an auction this week in Sydney or Brisbane or Melbourne?
In this, I think you've got to have information and education is the best tool.
Yep.
So making sure that you've got your finance,
Yep.
making sure that you're pest and building, you're comfortable with those,
Yes.
and making sure that you go there, making sure that you have a budget in mind and you know exactly where your limit is.
Yep.
And you don't, because an auction becomes quite emotional.
It does.
Yes, and all of a sudden the hype of it all. So you
Get a
have,
little excited.
so you might have a level 1 and a level 2. So you might say, okay, I've got $2 million to spend, but then you might go, I can afford 2.1. So and sometimes if a reserve or if it's a $2 million property, it might go for $2 million and 50, might go for $2 million and 80. So therefore, if you've got that little bit of flexibility, try and use that. But have all the information. That's the best education you can give yourself, and just calm it all down, and you'll just find that it'll just find its own level. The auctioneer, a good auctioneer, a good agent, is not against you. They're working with you. They're happy to help you, and they're not.
Yes.
I'm not an auctioneer that goes in and goes, you must bid all that. Try and help you understand it's the most important, one of the biggest purchases you'll ever make in your life, and therefore, and I will slow it right down. Like, there's many times I've done auctions where you're like, come on, mate, put the hammer down. Mate, when you employ me in 15 years' time to sell it again, you won't want me to put the hammer down quickly.
No, you won't. You won't.
And that's exactly. But if you're informed, educated, you'll put yourself in good stead for come Saturday.
Awesome, mate. Well, thank you, Mr. David Harvey from Dave Harvey Auctions in Sydney.
Thanks, bro.
I hope that has been informative for you. This type of information doesn't go out of date.
No.
So it doesn't matter when you're looking at this podcast, watching it on YouTube, it all stays in date. But the most important thing is ask the agent, seek advice. You know what? Go and hire a buyer's agent, a local buyer's agent, to go and bid on your behalf.
Yep.
I mean, we know the tricks, we know the tactics that these guys use,
That's exactly right.
and most of the time we can work with them to get you a good result. He's after to get the vendor a good result. So if both sides are happy, that's all that matters. You have a groovy week, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
See you guys.